Hey everyone. If you haven't noticed yet, it's just me this time. Amanda is actually quite busy with a bunch of work things, so I am going to field this one by myself, which is probably fine because this is sort of more in my wheelhouse anyway. But today's topic is this idea of keywords. If you're a blogger, if you're focused on search engine optimization at all, or maybe you aren't yet and you're kind of curious what that is, this is one of the first terms that you'll encounter, and it's one of the easiest things to sort of kind of go flying by because people don't tend to explain this very well. So I'm going to do my best to give kind of a beginner explanation. So this is about what a keyword is and how to pick one, what makes one good or bad, that type of thing. So first of all, what is a keyword? I kind of think of this as being an outdated term in the same way that, like, and this is going to, date me. You won't understand this probably if you're much younger than me, but like the way that like the save icon doesn't make any sense anymore. That made sense at one point in time, but now like people who are younger just know that as the save icon. For those of you who are younger and don't know what I'm talking about, the save icon is a picture of what's called a floppy disk, which is like an SD card from 50 years ago. So you've got this icon and it kind of ages into a way that doesn't make sense. And I think a keyword that way because it was almost a way to like game search engines in the early days of search. So way back in the day, if you wanted to write a blog post that ranked, like when Google was kind of new in the early 2000s, there wasn't a lot of content. So if you wanted to rank for like the term skunk and you wanted to appear right at the top of that search page, you would just say the word skunk in your blog post a lot, and the search engine would say like, oh, this must be pretty relevant. So this term keyword kind of emerged like a word to key off of, like literally. But that's not how things work 20 years later at all. So I kind of prefer even to think of the term search query or search term. It's a question that you ask the search engine. And that's really what we mean talking about keyword. I'll keep using the word because it's what people call it, but I kind of think of it as like not the best way to describe it. Anyway, pedantic aside, over. A keyword is basically what you type into Google, and everything you type, or Bing or whatever, everything you type into a search engine generally is a question, even if you abbreviate it. I talk about that a lot. And so a keyword is the question that you type into the search engine, abbreviated or like literally typed out, like what's the best Thai food place. So then the first question here is like, if you pick a keyword, how do you know whether a keyword is good or bad? The easiest explanation, though, kind of the most universal, is let me say this. It's harder to find a good thing to talk about. It's easy to stumble into a whole lot of bad ones. So a universally bad keyword is one that nobody's searching for. So if you write a piece of content for your blog and you say, I want to bring in organic search traffic through the search engines, I want to rank, I want people to find my site when they search for something. If you write about a topic that nobody is searching for, that's a bad keyword. If you're, I'm trying to. This is a common one that we deal with. It's totally understandable, but like with hit subscribe with our clients, especially if we're engaged with like a technical founder, they will assume that people really want to Google their product. Now, like imagine this: like say you invented like a robot that raked your yard, and you poured your blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. And then after 3 years, you were ready to start selling the robot that rakes your yard. So you put it out there in stores or whatever you do, and then you say, I want to market this. And you come to me and you say, hey, Eric, I think the main term we need to search for here, or the main term we need to blog about is robot raking. And I would come back to you and say, no, nobody searches for that. That's a bad keyword. And the reason that folks have trouble believing that is because if you poured all your time and effort into something, it's called the spotlight effect. You tend to think that people focus on that more than they do. If you go out and start doing like what's called keyword research, kind of seeing through tools what people actually search for in Google, almost everyone is surprised because some things you assume a lot of people search for, they don't. And then some stuff you'll encounter like, wow, I can't believe people type that into a search engine. You see more of that. Like if you actually just start typing like how to, Google will fill in things. And if you like how to drive, type in anything and see what Google suggests, and you will be amazed by stuff. Anyway, that's just a fun game to play. You're like, wow, I'm a lot more of an adult than most of the world or something. So it's a bad keyword if nobody's searching for it. After that, it gets a little bit more nuanced because when you think about a keyword, a search term, and you think about the content you're writing, if you want to rank in search engines, you're really trying to answer people's questions. So another way to get this wrong is if you're responding to their question in a way that isn't helpful. So, like for instance, if you type into Google, new cell phone or something, you probably comparison shopping for a new cell phone. So if I write a blog post that's like my hot take on new cell phones, there's nothing wrong with that keyword, but my response to it isn't very good. So when we talk about good or bad keywords, assuming people are searching for them, there aren't really bad keywords. There's just bad keywords for you as a content creator. And it's a bad keyword if I feel like writing about something other than what people want an answer to. That's not a good fit. Likewise, if like let's say that on my blog, or maybe I started a brand new blog and I said, you know what, I want to write for this keyword, organic produce. I'm going to write a blog post about how great organic produce is. This isn't a bad keyword. It's just a bad keyword for me. If you go and search for that, I don't know who ranks, but I'm going to guess things like Amazon and Whole Foods that are probably selling it, and they're probably making a lot of money. But the thing is, I bet millions of people a month search for that. So I, with my brand new blog, am never, ever, ever going to rank for that. So it's a bad keyword for me. I don't stand a chance at being included on the front page of the search results. So let me get away a little bit from talking about like what makes a keyword bad. We've kind of surrounded the topic of what makes a keyword good, but basically a keyword is good if it's relevant to your content. Like if your site is kind of about the question that you're answering, it's a good keyword if you actually like want to answer the question and you don't want to use the keyword as an excuse to talk about something that people searching for it don't care about. So if it's a fit for your site, if you're interested and willing to write about what people care about, and if it's kind of a competition match. So if you have a really high traffic site, you could write about competitive keywords that a lot of folks are writing about because you'll probably rank. If you don't have a really high traffic site, if you're not well established, then you want to answer kind of like longer, less common questions. Think of these as more niche keywords. So a keyword is good if it's relevant to your site, if you're answering people's questions, and if you're at kind of the right level of competition given your site's prominence or lack thereof. What are the guidelines for picking a keyword? So I've talked a lot about, I guess, what'll make a keyword good or bad for your site, but how do you go about picking one? The way I tend to do this, and this is kind of born out of like a number of years of experience of just doing this for countless sites, but what I start out with is I'll read through a client's site and look at the things they're talking about, and so like take our organic produce as an example, and I'm just doing stuff off the cuff, so forgive me if it gets a little contrived, but if a client has an organic produce website and they want to bring in people to like buy their mail order organic produce, I'll start to read through their site and see like what are the things they talk about. So what are the selling points? Is it that it's fresh organic produce? Is it that they get it shipped to you fast? So those can start to be ideas for things that people might type into a search engine to write content about. So if their kind of key differentiator is shipping organic produce fast, I might start to just type in and play around with things in Google. Like let's say overnight organic produce or something. And then I'm looking for two things. There are tools that will tell you like how many people a month approximately search for that term. And then there are tools that will tell you like how difficult it is to rank for that term. And so as I start to play around, I'm looking for things that people actually search for. If Google suggests something to you, like if it auto completes your search, it's telling you people search for that term. So that's a good starting point. Then if the tools tell you, it gets 260 searchers a month, that's also good data. So I'm looking for things that people actually search for and that aren't too hard for the client and that are relevant. And so I guess those are rough guidelines, and it's kind of a trial and error. Like you'll develop your own process. I mentioned that I'll kind of scrape the client's site for ideas. I will go and read through posts they've written that are doing well. And then in those posts, find terms that they talk about that maybe could use a link and be a whole other topic that would be of interest to their readers. You can, if you're so inclined, if you're writing for like a client, or if you're building your own site and you know who your competitors are, you can go see what they're writing about. Be like a goose that's flying in the wake of the lead goose. They've already done that research, so just go find what they've written about, write a better, longer article, and there you go. So there are a lot of ways to find those keywords, but really the main guidelines are kind of that relevance, competition level being appropriate, and that you're actually serving the search intent, answering people's questions. How does SEO play into this? Okay, so SEO is a term that people hear tossed around a whole lot, and I would argue it's kind of a much maligned term, especially in our world, which is tech. Like, a lot of people think of it as like this cheap thing that you do, and that's because it used to be. You used to go and just stuff the keyword into the post a lot, or after that you would put it in what's called the post meta. So it's this like little coded information within a blog post that sort of tells the search engine what it's about. So after the search engines caught on to like just saying the word skunk over and over again doesn't mean it's a good article. The next thing was that they stuffed skunk over and over into this coding. So it's this game of people wanting to take shortcuts, and then the search engine saying, okay, we figured out how to guard against that. But more and more in this day and age, search engine optimization, SEO, that's kind of another dated sort of thing. Like, it has a bad connotation, like optimization, meaning if you can just find the right way to tweak and cheat, you can trick people into looking at your garbage content. But SEO, as we approach 2020, it's really about like user experience. So the idea of optimization doesn't make sense anymore. It's basically about providing the best content so that the search engine gives its customer, the searcher, what it's looking for. So how does picking good keywords and keyword research and all that fit into search engine optimization? I mean, they're really part and parcel, because anymore the only way to optimize is to answer the question that searchers are asking. And so what keyword research done right is really about is figuring out what people are asking and whether it's relevant to what you have to say, and then answering those questions. And if you do that, and we have experimental data to back this up, if you do nothing other than find questions people are asking that nobody's really answering, and you answer those questions, you will get traffic, you will win, it'll work. So the core of SEO is just answering these questions, and keywords are questions. So the core of SEO, is kind of serving this keyword intent, and that's really all there is to it. So I guess to summarize what keyword research, what keyword optimization and search engine optimization, what all of this is about is really just kind of like a little bit of market research. Like, you're going out there and figuring out what kind of questions are people asking that I'm not answering, and then you're answering those questions, and you're waiting for the search engine to find you, and then serve that content up to people who, they click on it, they read, and the search engines can tell that they stick around. And so the search engine says, yes, this is good, you're answering people's questions. So really, in kind of a philosophical sense, to conclude, it's a great time to be doing this, because it's much harder to put out garbage and win. Like, you actually have to help people in order to do well in search engine optimization, in finding keywords and all that. So yeah, that's keyword research and keywords in a nutshell. Hope that helps some of you out there, and I will catch you next week.